Number 10. Despair. Despair is the second youngest of the Endless. Despair was also the first of the Endless to die and be resurrected as a new aspect. Morpheus believed that the person who killed the original was, at least somewhat, justified in their actions. We also learned that the person who murdered the original aspect would take an eternity to die, although in the original Sandman this is only mentioned, not gone into in great detail. The original aspect of Despair's demise is quite mysterious in the original series. Despair rules over all those in despair, and from her realm she can gaze upon those who find themselves in despair via various different mirrors. Her sigil is a fishhook which Despair often uses to dig into her flesh. I mean, she is Despair. Number 9. Delirium. My favorite member of the Endless, Delirium is the youngest, and prior to evolving into the being known as Delirium, or Del for short, she was known as Delight. Delirium, because she is younger and much less focused or organized than her siblings, is often thought of as being weaker. Really, I would still consider her to be a powerhouse though. I mean, she's also still endless. Delirium rules over the sanity of others and those who are delirious. Despite her fun, silly, and playful nature, she is not an Endless that you would want to get involved with though. Whether seen as an enemy or an ally of hers, you stand a chance to be touched by her madness, as even a gift from Delirium can actually be a curse in disguise for those who are sane. Although I'm sure Del wouldn't see it that way herself. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to show us how much you love the channel, please head on over to Facebook where we have lots more content coming your way, and you can give us a follow over there as well. Number 8. Desire. Desire is seen as one of the more manipulative siblings when it comes to the Endless. Once Desire and Despair were one being who broke in twain, becoming the twins Despair and Desire, separate entities. As much as the Endless are endless, they are still able to change and evolve as time goes on, and one of the Endless, Destruction, even at one point managed to retire, leaving behind their role in their office. Desire generally likes to meddle in the affairs of Dream, and also enjoys meddling and getting involved in the affairs of humans. Although really when it comes to affairs of lust and love with humans, affairs of the heart if you will, it's not really meddling because that is the area that Desire rules over. So to them it's basically business. Their business in essence, which is, of course, pleasure. Number 7. Erasmus Fry and Richard Maddock. Erasmus Fry and Richard Maddock were both writers who were just people, but villains all the same for sure. As Dream once warned Hobb, it is not a good thing to be in the business of enslaving others and taking away their freedom of choice, which is just what these two men did. Erasmus Fry captured Calliope, using her for inspiration to write. When he retired, he passed Calliope, who's one of the muses, on to Richard Maddock, a struggling writer who assaulted her in order to gain enough inspiration to write great work. Both of these men actually assaulted Calliope. Calliope was once the lover of Dream, and after observing what it was like to live as a prisoner himself in the glass chamber in Roderick Burgess's basement, he eventually answers her call and helps to set her free. Erasmus and Richard might not be your typical comic book villains, but they both did horrible things and are villains nonetheless in my mind. Number 6. Dream. The Dream we know via Sandman is known by the name of Morpheus, but he is not the only iteration of the character to exist. Currently in the Sandman Universe, Dream is known as Daniel. This is a different incarnation of the character. While Dream can be killed and defeated, the concept of Dream cannot, and so if ever Dream falls, there will be a new incarnation that will appear to take his place. Lord Morpheus is often not thought of as being one of the most powerful members of the Endless, as he is the ruler of the non-tangible realm of dreams and nightmares. But in reality, Dream is more powerful than most would give him credit for. After all, it is our dreams that inspire us and can also bring us great turmoil or fear. Dreams help to give life and desires meaning, and as such, Dream is the third oldest sibling of the Endless. Number 5. Duma and Ramael. These two are basically a package deal. After Dream is given the key to Hell by Lucifer, he opens up the realm of dreaming for envoys and petitioners as he tries to figure out who should get to keep it and rule over the now empty domain. However, the Presence decides that Hell should remain within the rule of their own kingdom. As such, the two angels who have come down from the kingdom of heaven simply to watch how the events will unfold in the dreaming are ordered by the Presence to become the new rulers. Ramael initially refuses to accept this new role, but his brother, Duma, who is mute and does not speak, accepts, taking the key and flying down to Hell. Ramael, feeling shame, follows after as he cannot let Duma take on the responsibility alone. As Duma and Ramael are angels, they are gifted in the ways of magic, dimensional travel, flight, and are also often known for being extremely smart, strong, resilient, and immortal. At least, smart collectively. Duma is often thought of as being the wiser and more intelligent between the two. Number 4. Death. Death is the second oldest sibling of the Endless and is widely considered as the most powerful of their ranks as well. This is why Roderick Burgess wanted so bad to trap her. In the live-action series, he wanted to stop Death from fulfilling her duties and hoped to force her to give him back his firstborn son while she was imprisoned. In the comics, Burgess sought to capture Death to prove himself a great magus and also to acquire immense power. However, in neither version of the tale did this plan work out for him, unfortunately. Death is the one who comes to claim the souls of the dead and helps them to cross over into whatever afterlife awaits them. She is also possibly the most popular character from the comics thanks to her sometimes flippant or sarcastic demeanor and to the fact that everyone just considers Death to be like one of the hottest. Death has also demonstrated a great capacity for kindness and compassion in regards to how she deals with those who have died, as well as her own family members. Number 3. Lucifer. Lucifer might seem like a fun-loving sort. I mean, Lucy does retire from hell to open up Lux with Mazikeen, but in reality, Lucifer is still a deadly enemy and not someone that you want to cross. And they enjoy tormenting Dream and even threaten the Dream King's life as well, which makes them probably one of the greatest villains in the story, just in terms of the threats they're throwing out there. Though really, Dream and Lucifer do have a complex relationship, sometimes sworn enemies and sometimes presented as friends. They're really, I guess, more frenemies if we had to categorize them. And to be fair to Lucifer, like many other villains we've discussed here, they're really complex as a character. Lucifer didn't necessarily even want to become the ruler of hell, it was simply the punishment that they received for rebelling against the kingdom of heaven. All in all, Lucifer isn't necessarily a baddie on paper, it's just a role that they are often forced into playing and that they play well due to how selfish and somewhat narcissistic Lucifer usually is portrayed as being. Number 2. Michael. Michael is the twin sibling of Lucifer, and as such is considered to be of the same power level or possibly even more powerful than Lucifer Morningstar. Michael was the one to lead the army of angels against Lucifer and the other rebels during the war in heaven. As Michael won that fight, many believe Michael Demiurgos to be the more powerful between the two twin siblings. Michael is considered to be a vessel for the power of their father, God of all things, Yahweh, aka the Presence, who also created Lucifer. Unlike most other beings of great power, Michael is rare in the fact that he can actually conceive children. Number 1. The Presence. The Presence is basically the creator of all things in the DC Universe, and also rules over and spills into the Vertigo line as well. The Presence is seen as the god of all creation, also known as Lucifer's and Michael's father, Yahweh. The Presence has many different names and aspects, including the Source, the Voice, the Hand, Allah, the Light, and the One Above All, among others. The Presence is not just the being who is credited with creating the universe, but the Omniverse besides. Before the Presence or the Light came into existence, there was only the Great Darkness, and with the spark of the light, everything that would ever come to be was created. The Presence is omnipresent, omniscient, and has infinite divine power. Number 10. Lucien, or Lucien, as the librarian is known in the live-action series. Lucien in the comics is Dream's right-hand man, much like Lucien is their right-hand lady. However, this is not the role that Lucien is intended to have by the Shaper of Dreams. Lucien is instead meant to serve as a librarian for the Dreaming, which has a library containing all the books that have ever been or ever will be. Any book that has existed or basically that one could dream up in their mind. Still, this doesn't stop Lucien in the comics and in the show from helping Dream when they see that he needs it, and acting as his chief advisor. Lucien in the comics has shown some capacity for doing magic as a being of the Dreaming, and is probably one of Dream's more useful, intelligent, and powerful creations. Number 9. Puck. Puck is of the Fae, and is known for being a shapeshifter and trickster among his people, but one who is tolerated nonetheless. He ends up allying himself with Loki at one point during the Sandman series. Like Loki, he is also known for being quite tricksy and quite slippery. Puck, however, seems to have less logical motivation than Loki for his actions, and simply seems to enjoy tormenting other people, thinking it is just good old fun. Puck is even considered to be somewhat of a thorn in the side of his own people, with the fairy Peaseblossom describing Puck as a giggling, dangerous, totally bloody, psychotic menace to life and limb. During a performance of Midsummer Night's Dream that the King of Dreams had arranged to have William Shakespeare put on for Queen Titania and Lord Oberon and their royal fairy consort. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you are loving the channel, be sure to let us know that you love us by heading on over to Facebook, where you can also follow us. And leave a nice comment on something when you do. I appreciate it when people leave nice comments that are like, yay, etc. Number 8. Thor. Thor is a big, brutish Norse god. That's right, DC also has a version of this hero, but his depiction in the Sandman makes him look more like a brainless ball of muscle than, you know, a real hero. He is the son of Odin and the god of war, thunder, and strength, brandishing his mighty weapon of legend, Mjolnir. Thor is brought along with Odin to the realm of the dreaming as part of a delegation to petition to gain the key to the realm of Hell, which has fallen into Morpheus' hands against his own wishes. Thor is shown here to be a powerful ox of a being who often bulldozes through anyone or anything who stands in his way, before even thinking to consider any consequences or ask any questions. When Loki escapes, Thor is tasked with retrieving him and bringing him back to the prison that Odin had created for him. Number 7. Destiny. While many do not think of Destiny as being one of the most powerful beings around in the Sandman universe, really they are. Destiny is actually the oldest sibling of the Endless family. Destiny is more beholden to rules than some of their other siblings, but just because they are seen as being less physically active or disruptive to the status quo does not mean that they are not immensely powerful, because, you know, they are. Destiny, while blind, is the keeper of the Book of Souls, which contains the history of the universe in it. Destiny is knowledge of pretty much all things that have been, will be, and currently are. However, the reason why people consider Destiny as weaker in some respects is because Destiny cannot really take action to change the course of history, but more acts as an observer and a chronicler of everything that will and has come to pass. Number 6. Titania. Titania is known to be the queen of the fairies, who once all lived in the earthly realm, or at least, you know, went back and forth between the earthly realm and their lands, but years ago decided to leave it, preferring to stay within their own fair lands. Titania actually was once a poor human girl who was taught magic and made into the protege of the previous fairy queen, before later taking her place. While she has had fairy lords rule by her side, such as Oberon and Oberon, she often presents as being the most powerful and most important being in the fair lands. She rules the fairy and they wait on her hand and foot. Titania is also shown to be a generally narcissistic person, and she and Dream may have had a romantic relationship in the past, and later on she kinda seems jealous of the attention and affection that he showed for Nuala, a fairy who was given as a gift by Titania to the Dream Lord. Number 5. Loki. Loki and Thor, both being a part of Norse mythology, as well as Odin, also exist in the DC universe, although the DC version of the characters is quite different from the Marvel versions, and here they're more sort of traditionally presented, I would say. Loki, being a trickster, enjoys messing with Dream, or at least attempting to anyway, and at one point his vendetta against the Dream Lord becomes quite personal. Loki does a ton of vile things in the comics. He burns one of Rose's close friends alive, reducing her to crispy ashes. He also is the one to kidnap Lita's baby, Daniel, setting in motion events that lead to the downfall of Lord Morpheus. Number 4. Odin. Of course, this is a world where life-ruling concepts have physical manifestations, and so, unsurprisingly, there are also gods from various realms that also exist here. Not just angels, but also the ruler of the Norse gods, Odin. Odin is even more powerful than Thor or Loki, of course, as he is the All-Father. He was the one to punish and trap Loki for his mischief, and is associated with wisdom and magic, and sometimes war. Odin appeared as a petitioner in the Seasons of Mist story arc, where he aimed to win the key of Hell from Dream after it was passed on to him from Lucifer. Odin is also a key figure in another of Neil Gaiman's live-action adaptation series, American Gods, which was adapted from the book of the same name that Neil Gaiman wrote. Number 3. Lucifer. Initially, Lucifer was an angel of heaven known as Samael, widely thought of as the most powerful, most beautiful, and wisest of all angels. As Samael, Lucifer rebelled against heaven, and when that battle was lost, was banished to a shapeless void that would later become known as the Realm of Hell. It is believed, however, that even after Lucifer Morningstar became the ruler of Hell, and later retired to run the Lux nightclub on Earth, that their power remained. Lucy is therefore still thought of as being one of the most powerful beings on Earth, one of the most powerful former angels, second only to their creator. Number 2. Rose Walker. Rose Walker is referred to in the live-action series as being a vortex, and this remains true of her comic book counterpart as well. In the comic book series, Rose becomes a dream vortex thanks to the interference of the Endless and Dream's captivity. Trying to avoid major spoilers here for those of you who have yet to finish the first season of the Sandman live action series, or, have yet to read the comic series, which, have I mentioned, you should definitely do both of those things and go listen to the audiobook, please, it's really good. As a dream vortex, Rose can manipulate the dreaming, which means she is super powerful in that realm, but also means she is super dangerous and in danger, as Dream is almost forced to kill her as a result of her initial connection to the dream realm. Number 1. Boss Smiley. I love writing these lists because it allows me to reminisce on such cool characters that exist in this world. Boss Smiley is a super interesting character and appears in one of the most memorable stories for me within the original Sandman series. I also just found out that Boss Smiley also appears as an Easter egg in Stargirl, and I'm like, man, I need to watch Stargirl. I've heard so many good things, and also there's a Boss Smiley Easter egg? That's so cool. The story that Boss Smiley originates from in the comics is a weird story that is part of a collection of tales we get when we visit the World's End. It is a story that Brant Tucker hears during his time wandering around there. The story as we know it is called The Golden Boy, and it features a character from the 70s, Prez Ricard of Earth 72, or Earth Prez, who was the world's greatest and youngest president in that reality. Throughout the story, a being named Boss Smiley constantly tried to strike a bargain with Prez to help him become president at first, and then later offering him various other things that Prez wanted at the time. Prez always refuses Boss Smiley, but upon dying learns that Boss Smiley is essentially the god of this reality. Although Death claims that Boss Smiley is not necessarily its creator. Prez is able to escape Boss Smiley and his heaven thanks to some help from Death. But still, in that world, Boss Smiley's basically the top dog. Number 10. Mr. Nimrod. Mr. Nimrod is the main organizer of the cereal convention, which is disguised as being about breakfast food, but is really for serial killers to meet and discuss the tricks of their trade and their work with one another. Mr. Nimrod is referred to by the Corinthian as a hunter, and when an outsider and fan, Philip Sitz, manages to sneak into the convention, and the Corinthian, Mr. Nimrod, and the Doctor decide to take turns tormenting Philip, Corinthian also explains that Mr. Nimrod can bone, joint, and gut any animal in minutes, which gives you a sense for what kind of experience Mr. Sitz is going to have in store. Nimrod is also terrifying in the regard that outwardly he presents as neat, ordinary, and mild-mannered, but in reality he is a ruthless, angry, and violent killer, like many of the serial killers at the convention. Number 9. Thessaly. I don't know if we can specifically call Thessaly a villain in the comics, but she definitely does a lot of suspicious and dubious things, especially in regards to Dream. This is because she and Dream had a relationship, and she is still hurt from the ending of that relationship. Thessaly initially presents as your average, somewhat kinda hippie-esque looking human, but in reality is an extremely old and powerful witch. Even Dream is surprised to see she's still alive and she's looking so young. Thessaly helps Barbie to escape her own dream realm and helps to defeat the villainous Cuckoo, but she also aids Lyta, helping to protect her when Lyta herself goes up against Dream. So while sometimes more heroic or neutral, she is also an antagonist in the series at times, and a well-written and complex one at that. And friends, before we move on to the next spot on this list, if you are loving it, be sure to hit that like and comment down below if you want some more Sandman content for us. I have read all of the original series, and I am so here to give you as much Sandman content as you want, because I could talk about Sandman all day. Number 8. The Corinthian. You might think of the Corinthian as one of the Sandman's major villains, and in a way, he is. Though he more serves the role of antagonist, I'd say, than villain specifically. The Corinthian was made by Dream to be his nightmare, to serve as a dark reflection to humanity of all the things they refuse to face about themselves and their nature. And yet even still, the Corinthian longed so much to be among the living that he was pulled to Earth and chose to live there during the years of Dream's imprisonment. The Corinthian claims that he preys on his victims and devours their eyes with his 2 smaller mouths in the place of eyes that he hides behind sunglasses to get a feeling for what it's like to be human, to truly be alive with your own sense of purpose, as opposed to being a dream or a nightmare shaped by Lord Morpheus and given a purpose by him. The Corinthian has more than one iteration as well, and later on actually does become a loyal ally to Dream, although he does still remain an antagonist to Dream's Raven, Matthew, who he threatens to kill on multiple occasions. Number 7. Mazikeen. Mazikeen is Lucifer's most loyal servant and consort. When Lucifer Morningstar decides to leave Hell and close up shop, in essence, Mazikeen seeks to join Lucy in the realm of the living. Mazikeen is often shown with a half-scarred face, although later on in the comics it is healed, much to Mazikeen's chagrin. This is also why Mazikeen in the comics often speaks in a garbled tongue that is harder to understand. Mazikeen is of the Lilem, a race of demonic beings tied to Lilith, the first wife of Adam. Initially, Mazikeen lived with Lilith, but when their relationship began to crumble, she sought protection from the one being she believed was more powerful than her own mother, Lucifer Morningstar. The Lilem are known for being a fearsome and powerful warrior race, and as a demon, Mazikeen also has super strength and reflexes as well as immortality. Number 6. Funland. Funland is another one of the serial killers, or collectors as they prefer to be called in public, who attend the serial convention. In the live-action series, he is one of the small group including Mr. Nimrod and the Doctor who come up with the idea to lure the Corinthian to their convention by copying his method of killing. Funland seems to enjoy preying on younger folks, and while at the diner where the killers come up with the plan to lure in the Corinthian, even seems to be interested in killing their waiter, who he claims looks younger to him than perhaps he actually is. The Doctor, however, asserts that the waiter is definitely too old for Funland. Funland in the comics, instead of preying on Jed, preys on Rose Walker, who is saved instead in that version of the tale by Lord Morpheus. Number 5. The Kindly Ones. The Kindly Ones are known by many names, including the Fates, the Three Witches, the Three Sisters, and 3-in-1. They not only have these different names, but also have different incarnations to go along with them. As the Kindly Ones, they seek revenge for those who have done harm to their own family members, spilling their blood. And as the Hecatea, or Hecatea, they were known as prophetic seers or oracles. Really, the Kindly Ones, or Three Witches, are one entity which simply has 3 different manifestations or faces made up of the crone, often taking the name of Mordred, the mother, often taking up the name of Mildred, and the maid, often taking up the name of Cynthia. These 3, or really this one entity, is even powerful enough to assist and affect the beings known as the Endless. Number 4. Lyta Hall. Hippolyta Hall, or Lyta Hall as she is known in the live-action series, was a friend of Rose Walker's. In the comics, Rose was actually someone who lived in the same apartment building and was sometimes babysitter for Lyta's baby, Daniel. In the live-action Sandman series though, Lyta is introduced as the attorney of Rose Walker, who also acts as a friend to Rose, escorting her on her trip to London and later helping her when Rose is searching for her lost brother Jed. In the comics, however, Lyta also has it out for Dream, who she blames when her son Daniel goes missing. The reason why Lyta is blaming Dream when Daniel goes missing is because Daniel was born and possibly conceived in the dream realm where Lyta was trapped for many years with her husband Hector in the comics. Dream claims that Daniel belongs to the dreaming and will eventually have to return there, but Lyta refuses to accept this and actually sees Dream's promise as a threat. She ends up allying herself with extremely powerful forces in an effort to destroy Dream later on when presented with an opportunity to do so. In the end though, Lyta not only hurts Dream but also causes great harm to herself as she is consumed by her desire for revenge. Number 3. Destruction. Destruction isn't really around in the Sandman series, which is kind of why I decided to rank them a little bit lower on this list. Okay, do I want to spoil this for people? Because this is going to come up in the show if you haven't read the comic or listened to the audiobook. It's hard with the Sandman, honestly, because the comic series has been out and around for like a really long time, but the show is so fresh, so I'm trying as I write these lists to reconcile where all people could be in regards to their experiences and their knowledge of Sandman, because I don't want to spoil anything major for you guys. Let me know in the comments where you are at in terms of how much you already know about the Sandman and its universe, as this will help to guide me through what you guys want. Or if you're like, give me all the spoilers, let me know if that's what you want, or if you know you've just read it all already. Destruction anyways is a member of the Endless who actually left, which I know sounds like a thing you can't do, and up until it happened, it wasn't really. Destruction retired from his office, but back in the day he was a force to be reckoned with, being both of the Endless and also symbolizing destruction, which is actually one of the greatest and most severe methods we have as living beings for change. Number 2. The Kindly Ones. The Kindly Ones are a different version of the Three Sisters, or Three Fates. We see these 3 women in the Sandman series at one point where they allude to their role as the Kindly Ones. one different incarnation of them when talking to Rose Walker in the Doll's House episode. The kindly ones are an incarnation of the 3-in-1, who are in reality actually one entity that simply appear as 3 separate beings, who get revenge on those who spill family blood. That's the kindly one's role when these 3 women are that. Basically, if you have caused harm to a sibling, a parent, a child, and especially if you have ended their life or spilled their blood, the kindly ones can be called on to come for you. And as they said to Rose, you wouldn't want to meet them in their kindly one's form. No, you would not. Number 1. Dr. Destiny. Dr. D, or John D, is probably the greatest villain for me in the original Sandman series. While not as powerful or narrative altering as the kindly ones or Lucifer, D is disturbing, awful, and creepy, and what makes this villain even worse is he truly believes his actions are justified. In fact, he's even more horrifying, I would argue, in the live action series in regards to his motives, because you can better understand why he is doing what he is doing and how he truly thinks he is saving the world. At least in the comics, he seems to be more interested in just seeing the world burn than saving it. But in the live action series, Dee actually believes that in order to save the world, he basically may have to burn it to the ground. As he sees it, that is really a reflection of the people on the planet and their true selves than a result of him doing anything wrong.